What is going on, Pretender here, back with another Honkai Star guide, and today I'm here with the full guide on one of the characters rerunning in the 3.4 first half, being Sunday. So in this video I'm going to be taking you over everything you do need to know, including an overview on his kit and eidolons. Then I'll be taking you over his best Lightcone options, followed by that will be best relic sets and Planar ornaments, and then main stat and substat recommendations. And at the very end, I'll be giving some team ideas for you to actually decide on where you do want to use him and how you kind of want to go about using him on your teams. I plan on having a full build guide for every single 3.4 character that is new and returning. There's already one for Finon and Chibi. You are now watching the Sunday guide. Soon there will be one for Sparkle, and soon there will be one for Jinglu. For Blade and Firefly, I will be linking ones that I did make in the past that have received absolutely no changes. The way you do build them is the same as said in those videos. And so instead, I will be linking the guide I did make for Blade in 3.2 and the guide I made for Firefly in 2.7. That's all I wanted to say before I get into the video. If you guys found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new, haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the types of Star content and guides. If you know anyone that may need a Sunday guide, be sure to send them this video as it may help them. Remember to join the Discord in the description below, and let's get straight into the video. So Sunday is an imaginary character following the path of harmony. His basic attack is the generic dealing damage to a designated enemy. This skill will allow you to select someone on your team to immediately take action, which also does include their summon. At the same time, it will also increase their damage dealt by 30%, and if the person you do give the extra turn to does have a summon, the damage dealt is boosted by an additional 50% for 2 turns. After using skill on the Beatified, recovers a skill point, and if you do use a skill on other characters that do follow the path of harmony, the immediate action will not take effect. His ultimate will allow you to target one allied character and regenerate their energy by 20% of their max energy. It will also turn the target and their summon into the Beatified, and if that ally is Beatified, they have their crit damage increased by an amount equal to 30% of Sunday's crit damage plus 12%. The Beatified duration will decrease by 1 at the start of Sundays every turn, and will last to a maximum of 3 turns. It also will only apply to the latest person that you did buff with the ultimate. His talent provides 20% crit rate to the person you do buff with the skill for 3 turns. His technique will allow Sunday to give an even stronger buff to damage dealt when using a skill on an ally for 2 turns, and the damage dealt increase is 50%. For his bonus traces, his A2 will allow you to regenerate a ally's energy back to 40 if they have less than 40 energy when you do use the ult on them. His A4 allows him to get 25 energy when the battle begins, and his A6 gives him access to a Dispel debuff when using his skill on a target. For his eidolons, his E1 now also gives his skill access to Defense Ignore. The character themselves will gain 16% Defense Ignore when dealing damage to an enemy, and if they have a summon, the summon will ignore 40% of the enemy target's defense when dealing damage, lasting for 2 turns. His E2 will provide 2 skill points upon the first use of Sunday's ultimate, and will also increase the damage dealt by the Beatified by an additional amount of 30%. His E4 gives him 8 energy when his turn starts, and his E6 will make his crit rate talent stackable to 3 times. It will also increase that talent's duration by 1, and now Sunday's ultimate can also apply the talent effect, meaning that it's not only his skill now, his ultimate can also apply that crit rate boost effect. When you do have that crit rate buff on your ally, if they do have crit rate exceeding 100%, you'll be able to buff their crit damage at the same time at a 1-2 ratio. Meaning if you have 101% crit rate, you will get 2% crit damage, and it would keep increasing the further you do go. So if you have 2% over 100%, that means you get 4% crit damage. If you have 6% over 100%, that means you have 12% crit damage, and so on and so forth. Taking a look at the best Lightcone options for Sunday, far and none his best one is going to be his own signature Lightcone, which after the wearer uses skill or ultimate on one ally character, the wearer regenerates 6 energy, and the ability's target receives 1 stack of him for 3 turns that will also stack up to 3 times. Each stack will also increase the holder's damage dealt by 15%, and after every 2 instances of skill or ultimate used on one ally character, recovers 1 skill point. So this Lightcone will straight up allow Sunday to have 3-turn ultimate, practically meaning you will be able to permanently keep his ultimate up on the ally you do choose to buff. On top of that, you're going to be able to gain stacks for the actual holder, giving them up to a 45% increase to damage dealt. And at the same time, this Lightcone will also turn Sunday into an SP positive character. The main factor is the fact that it does let you have ultimate up permanently pretty much. But yeah, also being SP positive is super good, because now it allows you to more comfortably use him with more SP hungry characters, such as IL Danheng, Anaxa, and so on. So being able to have a permanent uptime on his ultimate for the person you do want to buff, turning him SP positive and also buffing the damage dealt for the person you are buffing is why it is far and none his best option. Another good option on him is but the battle is an over Lightcone, increasing the wearer's energy regen rate by 10% and regenerates 1 skill point when the wearer uses their ultimate on an ally. This effect can only be triggered once after every 2 uses of the wearer's ultimate. When the wearer uses their skill, the next ally taking action except the wearer will deal 30% increased damage for 1 turn. So the increase to energy regen rate will also help him get his ult back faster. So it's a good substitute for the fact that what the actual main Lightcone or a signature Lightcone can actually do. It also has some form of SP generation. It's not going to be nearly as good as a signature obviously, but it's still something. So it can help you offset the usage of skill points in some way. And the last part synergizes perfect with him because the person you do buff will always be the next one taking action unless they're a Harmony character. So for the most part, you're also going to be giving them 30% damage, which is why it's another really good option to use. If you are able to hit thresholds where it does matter, Dance That Dance becomes a really strong option. When the wearer uses their ultimate, all allies' actions are advanced forward by 16% and at S5 it is 24%. If you aren't hitting any speed or breakpoint thresholds with this actual Lightcone, then the effect is practically useless. But let's say maybe you're a few speed rolls off a certain breakpoint, this Lightcone can help you hit that, helping you achieve something like 3 turns within a cycle, or helping you at least act faster is a bunch of uses that this Lightcone does have. So if you're able to hit a point where this actually does have you get an extra action, or maybe it helps your character actually act faster, whether that be Sunday himself, a different character that's crucial, or the DPS themselves. If you're able to get something out of that, then it becomes valuable, but if you're not really getting anything out of it, then it is practically useless. And then another option you can use is Past and Future. Since this is free, I will have it at S5. When the wearer uses their skill, the next ally taking action except the wearer deals 32% increased damage for 1 turn. So it's pretty much a worse version of Brone's Lightcone. 2% extra damage you can get, but it's not without the energy regen that Brone provides and also the extra skill point. It pretty much takes the last part of that Lightcone and puts it into this as its whole thing. But again, it is utilized as Sunday will be able to guaranteed make the next person act. So you are actually able to utilize this Lightcone. So it is a fine free-to-play option for an alternative. Taking a look at the best Relic sets for Sunday, overall his best in slot is going to be 4-piece of the Relieved Ordeal set. 2-piece increases the wearer's speed by 6%, and the 4-piece when using skill or ultimate on an ally target increases the ability target's crit damage by 18% for 2 turns and stacks up to 2 times. Both Sunday's buffs for his skill and his ultimate are both single targets, so he's able to stack this up practically right away and permanently keep it on that actual ally. The 2-piece also makes it easier for you to hit the thresholds you want to hit, so -1 speed build where you have him 1 speed or so below your actual DPS. And it also makes it easier to get the hyperspeed as well. Sunday also is primarily buffing crit damage as one of the biggest parts of his kit, and this relic set also does give a lot of crit damage at the same time, as it gives you up to 36% crit damage to that ally you are buffing. So that can at the same time mean that you could actually allocate less crit damage on your Sunday and focus more on speed or survivability, as you're already getting a lot from this set. Obviously, the more crit damage the better, but it still will allow you to allocate more stats into other things that you might want. More HP for more survivability, more speed if you want to get hyper speed, or if you want to get closer to a -1 speed build, that's kind of tricky. The fact this actual 4-piece is giving crit damage, and a lot of it at that, helps a lot with actually making up for the missed stats you might have, and is overall his best option. Another solid option for him is actually Hackerspace. Same 2-piece with 6% speed, and the 4-piece when the wearer uses their ultimate on an ally, speed for all allies will increase by 12% for 1 turn and cannot be stacked. So same thing as I mentioned for Relieved Ordeal, the 2-piece helping you with speed will make it easier to get closer to -1 speed or hyperspeed or whatever. And the 4-piece can also help you hit certain thresholds on your characters or help you hit certain breakpoints. Just do note that if you already have specific tunings, this can definitely impact it. As remember, percentage speed buffs are based off the character's base speed. So let's say you already have a -1 speed build going, but you're running someone that may actually have a little bit lower base speed than Sunday. The 4-piece on this buff can actually end up making it to where Sunday ends up being faster, so definitely keep that in mind when you are using this relic set. Otherwise, if you're able to get benefits off it from hitting certain thresholds or higher speed thresholds, it is going to be really strong and overall a great option. Another set you can do is 4-piece Eagle set. For the 4-piece, after the wearer uses their ultimate, their action is advanced forward by 25%. This will help you accelerate Sunday's turns, help you get faster turns, and so on. This will also depend on your specific tunings, so be sure to account for any tunings when using this as well. Just be sure the 25% action forward is actually giving you something and it's not expiring your buffs faster for no benefit at all. But if you are actually able to utilize the 4-piece on your builds, then it can actually become one of his best in slots to use. Past that, it is combining 2 pieces, so you can do 2-piece speed with 2-piece speed, which also would include 2-piece of the Warrior Goddess set, as it does have the same 2 pieces of Relieved Ordeal and Hackerspace. And then past that, it practically would be combining anything else. You'd mainly just take one of the 2-piece speeds and do 2-piece survivability, so you can do 2-piece of the max HP set, 2-piece guard to take less damage, or you could also very much do 2-piece Wave Strider, as that also does provide crit damage, so that will further amplify Sunday's buff. So again, mainly 4-piece Relieved Ordeal will be the way to go. If not that, 4-piece Hackerspace, as long as it doesn't mess up any tunings. And if you have a setup that does benefit from 4-piece Eagle, that helps you accelerate in a good way and not just wasted turns, then it can actually become one of the best. Past that, 2-piece speed, 2-piece speed, or 2-piece speed with something like 2-piece Wave Shredder for the crit damage, or something for survivability like the max HP set or the guard set for reduced damage taken. For Planar Ornaments, you practically can use any one of the supportive sets. The most common one on him is going to be Lushaka for the 5% energy regen rate, and 12% attack for the character positioned first in the team lineup. Just be sure the person you are buffing does benefit from attack percent, otherwise it is relatively useless. Broken Keel is also going to be really good for him when you do have 30% effect res, giving everyone 10% crit damage, which also does apply to him, which also means that you'll further amplify his buff. So that's another beneficial one. If you are pairing him with an imaginary DPS, you can use Penacony for 5% energy regen rate and 10% damage for all other allies of the same type as the wear. Just be sure, once again, if they are actually the same type, otherwise it is relatively useless. And the Ageless set also does work well on him. 12% max HP will increase his survivability, and 120 speed or higher, which you practically always have, will increase everyone's attack by 8%. Just like Lushaka, make sure the people you are buffing do actually end up benefiting from the attack percent. If they're an HP scaler like Castris or something, it's going to be relatively useless. So if they can't benefit from it, it's an option you can use. Another option you actually can use is Von Walk. 5% energy regen rate, and once you do have 120 speed or higher, whereas action is advanced forward by 40% immediately upon entering battle. This would usually be used in cases where you want Sunday to be the first character to act in the battle. Whatever your team setup is, if you do actually want to achieve that, Von Walk would be the way to practically guarantee it. Because not only are you maybe running a -1 speed build or a really high speed build with Eagle, or even a hyper speed build, those higher speeds with Von Walk will practically guarantee the fact that you would be able to go first. Just be sure that you don't have someone else on the team that also maybe have Von Walk, or someone else that already has Action Advance in their kit when the battle starts. But again, if you do want him to be the first one to act, Von Walk would be the one you would use. For the main stats on the Relics, for the body, you want to run crit damage. For the feet, you want to run speed. For the orb, you can do HP percent or defense percent for survivability. Just use whatever has the better rolls for your build. And for the link rope, you want energy regen rate. For the substats, first you want to prioritize speed. Always usually going to be above 134 unless you're doing something really specific with DDD or Eagle. If you're doing a -1 speed, so let's say you're running a Noxa at 141 speed, your goal would be to get Sunday around 138 to 140 speed, hence the name -1 build. It doesn't exactly have to be -1, it can be, 2 to 3 off, but make sure it isn't too far off. You just want to make sure that they aren't too far down or too far up. So if that's your goal, you want to get it to 1 speed or so below your actual DPS you're trying to get that -1 build on. And if you're running him hyperspeed, then you want to get him to 160.1 speed or higher. Past that, focusing on more crit damage will further amplify his buff. If you are also running something like Broken Keel, then you want to make sure you get 30% effect res to get the effect. Past all that is just going to be more survivability, so even more effect res, defense percent, HP percent, and so on. So once again, first be sure to prioritize speed to hit the breakpoint. For -1 speed, you just get to 1 to 3 speed below your actual main DPS. And if you're running hyperspeed, 160.1 speed or higher. Past that, if you are running Broken Keel, be sure to get 30% effect res. And then after that, focusing on more crit damage to further amplify his buff would be great. And anything after that would be more effect res or HP percent or defense percent for survivability. Now for the team building / team ideas section of this video. Sunday is a relatively flexible character that works almost anywhere. There's a few exceptions like Break that is a boot hill, or especially Dot, but the places he does excel at are characters with summons. There are 2 primary examples of this, and one of them, and this is probably going to be the most common, is actually Aglia. Aglia is going to love Sunday. She is practically glued to Sunday. The difference between having Aglia with Sunday and without Sunday is night and day, and this is one of the best pairings they could have. And then your remaining slots would be another supporter. Often in this case, it would be someone like Tribi. If you don't have Tribi available, or you just don't have Tribi at all, you can use Robin, you could use Ruan Mei, you could also use RMC. Whatever you do have available, for this case I will use Tribi. And the last slot would usually be your sustain, depending on if you do sustain or sustainless. If you're doing a sustain, you just throw on whatever you do have that is the best. With Aglia specifically, Fofo is going to overall be the best, but you can very much use someone like Lingsha, Hyacinth, and so on. And if you're doing sustainless, then you would obviously sub out the actual healer or shielder for another support character, often Robin, RMC, Ruan Mei, the same characters again, so it would look something like this. The other summon character was going to be none other than the cockroach himself, Jingwan, so you can also run something similar like this. But he's not just glued to these summon characters, he works fantastic with any other character where you would use someone like Sparkle or Bronya. Practically any team that use Sparkle and Bronya you do have, Sunday usually will perform better. So for example, an Anaxa hypercarry would look something like this. You'd have Sunday, Anaxa, another character for support, so Tribi or something. And the last thought, again, would depend if you're doing sustainless. So you'd go ahead and throw a sustain if you're not doing sustainless, and if you're not actually running a sustain and you want to do sustainless, then you'd sub that out for another support character. Sunday also works fantastic with someone like Acheron as well. So a team for Acheron would be Sunday, Acheron herself. Then this last thing would be depending if you want to run 2 Nihility characters or 1 Nihility and 1 sustain, depending on E2, E0, and so on. So in this case, I'll just throw on 1 Nihility character, and then the last slot would be a sustain if you do want. If you want to also do sustain this Acheron, then obviously take out the sustain for a support, often Tribi. If you want to use them with someone like Boothil, that is also completely fine. Sunday works fantastic with Boothil, so you can run Sunday, Boothil, Ruan Mei, and Fugue. Often Boothil will be ran sustainless, this is usually his best team to run. But if you want to be safe, you can sub out usually Fugue for your sustain, so in this case it would be someone like Lingsha or Gallagher. But in my case, for an example, I will use Fugue as a sustainless team. Boothil is like the only character that is break that will be able to benefit off Sunday. Practically any team does actually benefit off Sunday. The only times where he's not used is Da and any break character that isn't Boothil. And also in some cases Castra's teams as well, as he isn't the best to use with Castra's, but he's still definitely usable. But in any team, you'd usually use someone like Sparkle or Bronya. Sunday will be the better option than the two of them, and so you would put him on that team instead of Sunday. So you'd put him on the team instead of Sparkle or Bronya. And yep, that is the full guide to Sunday. Once again, hope you guys found the video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content and guides. And I'll see you later. Peace out.